Alright guys, it's Jahlon with the Paradox Gaming Network, and today we're talking about the Artisan System and Ashes of Creation. Now the Artisan System is one of those themes in the game that Steven is keeping a lot of the information close hold. So what we're going to talk about today is the big picture stuff, sort of the vision and the destination that Intrepid wants to get to. And it's important to do that today because as we start moving into testing, we need to know what to expect so we can give good feedback. So the first thing you need to know is they're using a 3-branch system. They're going to have gathering, processing, and crafting professions, and together they make up the Artisan System. Now in each of those branches there's going to be professions, and these are pretty common MMORPG professions. A couple of the crafting ones are maybe unique that we haven't seen before. And I know a lot of people keep asking the question, they ask the question about right here, why are there so few processing professions listed? The reason why is, although there's a lot of assumed professions, we don't have exact sound bites saying these things exist. So for gathering and processing, there's probably going to be more. And with processing, things like milling, tanning, weaving, and masonry are probably going to exist in some form. Other systems we've heard from, other cosmetic cash shop, freehold skins, have let us know that those buildings are going to exist. We just don't have a solid quote from Steven yet. Now, as we move into the system, what we're going to have is branch mastery. I know a lot of people are worried that the Artisan System isn't going to be robust, that characters are going to be able to do too many things. And that's a piece of feedback Steven has heard, and there has been a slight design change over the years. So first of all, you can only master things in one branch. So the moment that you decide that you're going to be a master crafter, you lose the ability to master anything in gathering and processing. Also, although there are so far 10 professions in crafting, you cannot master all of them. You'll be able to master a few, but not all. So what happens here is we bring up our list and you decide you want to be a master cook. And pretty commonplace, alchemy usually supplements, cooking as the consumables, vendor. And then you decide that you also want to be able to make siege weapons. Well, what happens is we don't know how many you can master, but if the cap was 3, the moment you master your third profession, you lose the ability to master the rest. So coming back over to the system together, you'd be a master crafter in alchemy, cooking, and siege weapons. You'd also be able to do some basic crafting in all of the professions, just not at that master level. Now, one thing people have asked is, can you do basic things, intermediate things in the other branches? And the answer is, we don't know how far into the gathering and processing branches you'd be able to go, but you definitely will be able to do some basic gathering and some basic processing. Now, the 3-part system works really well when you want to have a solid supply chain and you want to make sure everybody's relevant. And Steven and Intrepid are really, really motivated to keep gatherers relevant throughout the entire game. So the first part is that you have a gatherer who gets a level 10 gathering flower, and then he turns that item over either directly or through market sales to a processor who takes that raw material, uses their processing profession, and turns it into a processed good. And then one more handoff will be to a crafter, and that crafter will use that processed good and turn it into a finished good. Now, I use the term finished good for a reason, but it's going to follow suit at the level 20 items as well, and then you're going to end up having separate supply chains. The reason why I call them finished goods and not finished products is because they were made by a crafter, but Intrepid wants to make sure that low-level items stay relevant. Now, there's a lot of different ways to try to do this, and what Steven sort of hinted at is that they want to make sure that that early-on supply chain stays relevant all the way through endgame. So as the example you see here, there's not going to be a lot of need for level 10 items as everybody reaches max level, except if you take that level 10 finished good and you make it a requirement for the level 20 finished good, and you do that all the way through to the max level items, you're always going to be generating a need for those low-level items. Now, the Artisan System is a very popular topic on my Twitch Q&A live streams, and these are sort of the frequently asked questions that keep coming up, so I want to make sure everybody gets these answers. And the first one is, how are they going to make sure there's a continued demand for items? If you're familiar with most MMORPG economies, other than cooking and alchemy, which uses consumable items, eventually everybody has their gear, they have all their stuff, and until the next expansion push, there's not a lot of stuff going on for crafters. Well, the first one is that there is some permanent item destruction, and one of those is in the form of caravans. When a caravan is attacked and destroyed, it needs to be rebuilt. The owner of the caravan will be able to salvage some of the parts, but obviously they're going to need to get some replacements. So this generates a constant need on the entire Artisan system, especially if you have level 50 caravan parts that need that supply chain of the 40, which needs the 30, which needs the 20, which needs the 10. That means there's going to be people out there gathering all sorts of stuff in all sorts of spots in the world. The other one is there is going to be a lot of sieges going on. Node sieges, castle sieges, 5 castles, monthly castle siege system. There's going to be siege equipment needed. And my guess, just my guess, is that it's not going to be like Archeage where your tank is in your bag all the time. My guess is that the siege equipment you're going to need for the siege is going to have a timer, and basically it's going to be in a cycle of when you can use it until it expires. And finally, we know that items are going to have a limit to their repairability. So that means eventually your gear will need replacements. You will be able to repair it X number of times. However, at some point, an item may no longer be repairable. Now, we don't have a solid confirmation that this is still the route they're going, but what I do want to remind people is, even if items don't have a max repairability and they can be repaired forever, this isn't a game where you can repair things with just gold. If you want your items repaired, you do need to bring materials as well as gold to a crafter so that they can repair your stuff. So either it's a eventual destruction or you constantly need to invest materials into it. That's still going to generate a demand. The other question we get a lot is, do professions affect classes? And the answer to this is no. The adventurer classes and the artisan classes are completely separate, and they want to keep it that way. So there are no class bonuses from the artisan professions. So blacksmithing isn't going to generate additional strength for your combat class. So this opens up the ability to say a tank can excel equally at being an alchemist or a blacksmith. They don't have to worry about a detriment to their stats, and they don't have to worry about not keeping up with min-maxing. This really creates the scenario where it's a player's choice for what they want to do, instead of being forced into certain artisan classes based on their adventurer class. And finally, people have been worried about the labor system that we saw in Archeage that was really game debilitating. No, there is no labor system in Ashes of Creation. There's not an artificial cap on how much work you can do. Now, people were worried that since there's no labor system, is that going to allow certain players to just get infinitely ahead? And the answer is no, because there is a cap based on availability of work. There are no set gathering spawns. There are no set gathering routes. You can't go into a zone and mine for 3 hours while you watch a movie. When you hit a node, that node doesn't respawn immediately in that spot. It may respawn three actual zones of influence over. This also means that goods are going to be scarce. There's not going to be a bloat of too much low-level stuff. And so you will have to have work to do to have work to do. So if the node you're living in doesn't have a robust market, you're going to have to travel to places where being a processor is in demand, or you're going to have to generate caravans to bring work to you. But you're not going to just go to the auction house and buy a bunch of stuff from a global auction house, because even if you are lucky enough to have an auction house, you still have to travel to pick up your goods, or you have to travel to do the work there. And finally, I'm going to talk about the death drop rates in Artisans. I know I cover death drop rates in a lot of different themes, But I want people to remember that when you're off traveling to find work, if you die, you do drop things out of your backpack. So what we're looking at is in the Artisan system, you have gathering, which produces gatherables, processing, which produces processed goods, and crafting, which produces finished items, even if those items are used further on down the line. I specifically use the term finished item here because those items are not eligible to be dropped. Armor, weapons, consumables, once they're in a finished state, they don't drop when you die. So the death penalty here is that when you die carrying gatherables or processed goods, you drop a percentage of these goods on death. Now for combatants and non-combatants, the things you can drop on death, you can drop gatherables, processed goods, and redemption certificates, be it redemption certificates from a caravan or the certificate term for like wolf's teeth, deer hide, antlers, scales, anything a monster would drop. Those are considered gatherables, so you will drop those as well. For combatants and non-combatants, what you cannot drop on death is finished products, weapons, armor, potions, things of that nature. This is different for the corrupted. Corrupted, the things that they can drop on death is basically everything. They drop a percentage of their gatherables, their processed goods, their redemption certificates, and they have a percentage chance to drop weapons, armor, assumedly potions or other finished goods. We don't have a soundbite on that. The things that the corrupted can't drop on death is blank. If you're corrupted, you have a percentage chance to drop everything and a guaranteed chance to drop gatherables, processed goods, and those certificates. And that is it for today, guys, on the big picture overview for the Artisan system. What I want you to do is if you have any questions on the Artisan system, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. I will take those questions, and when I do the 3 deep dive videos, I will make sure to incorporate the questions. I will also put those questions over on ashes101.com. That site has been completely revamped. I hope you guys find it a lot more user-friendly. There is a lot more substance now going to be going on it. Now that the function is there, we'll add substance. If you're brand new to Ashes and you have not registered for Ashes of Creation yet, there is a referral code in the description below. I would greatly appreciate it if you would use that to register. And as always, guys, if you need to find me, I'm Jahlon #0001 on Discord. You can find me on the Ashes of Creation Discord, on my own Discord. You can get me on Twitch. I stream on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and the occasional Saturday. My link to my Twitch is in the description below. You guys take care, and I will see you next time when I start those 3 deep dive videos.
What are you still doing here? Nobody ever stays this long. This is the end screen. Well, since you're here, there's a couple other videos I think you should check out. And all those names? Those are my patrons over at Patreon. I couldn't do this without them. So, big thanks to them for all their support.